Good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, The Finances Talk, Why and How Funeral Professionals Should Talk to Families About Payment. This is your moderator, Jessica Koth, for today's live event. In a few moments, we'll meet today's expert, Elaine Valdez. Before today's presentation begins, let's review a few housekeeping items. For the best audio presentation experience, please ensure your computer's audio is on. If your computer speakers don't provide acceptable audio, you may dial in by phone by clicking Audio Settings. To adjust your view of the speakers, click on View Options at the top of your screen. You may toggle the size of the speaker and slide by dragging the middle line. To open the chat window, click on the chat bubble. You may interact with the presenters or other participants here by selecting all panelists and attendees. If you have a question for the presenter or moderator, enter them at any time into the Q&A box and hit enter. If we're unable to address all your questions today, we'll provide answers by email to all registrants. It's my pleasure to introduce our expert. Elaine Valdez is the Funeral Engagement Manager at LendingUSA, the nation's leading provider of at-need financing. Prior to joining the team at LendingUSA, Elaine worked for one of the oldest privately owned funeral home groups in Los Angeles, California, serving both at-need and pre-need clients for more than 14 years. She joined LendingUSA because she believed in its mission to provide at-need families with more options when it comes to paying for their loved one's funeral, something that was not readily available in the funeral profession. Elaine works closely with thousands of funeral homes nationwide to help them offer a better solution for families. And NFDA is proud to have LendingUSA as part of its family of endorsed providers. We're really excited to learn more about this important topic of funeral financing. Elaine, take it away.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for chiming in this morning. I know everybody has a busy day ahead, but we appreciate your time. And I'm really excited to have this opportunity to address our NFDA partners. So thank you, Jessica, for that introduction. And just a little bit more about who we are. We've had the pleasure of being able to attend all of the conventions and trade shows and different state association shows, and meeting a lot of you in person. I think a lot of you have seen us over the last couple of years. We've been lucky to be the #1 financing option for funeral homes in our industry. And our goal is to provide financing for important moments in life. And I don't know if we can say there's anything more important than somebody's goodbye, right? We have been endorsed by the NFDA now the last few years, and we also have the endorsement of 12 of the largest state associations across the United States, and we're very proud of that. We're currently used by a network of over 3,000 funeral homes nationwide, and we grow daily. On a daily basis, we're adding more and more partners, and a big part of that is our endorsement with NFDA. We have a lot of our partners that are part of this association. And why we're here. So I think a big part of having an option like financing is it's a way to be able to help enhance your service. I think over the last couple of years, we've seen so many different changes in the profession, and a lot of it is just what families are looking for nowadays. And sometimes they just need an additional enhancement to what they think they want, right? So not just a cremation, there's a cremation with the memorial option available, and that's a way to enhance being able to offer them something that they can afford with the low monthly payment. So hopefully we are a tool that can help do that. And we just want to help families with payment options. I think the last 10 years, I've seen a big shift in families just not being as prepared as they wanted to. So they were going toward those options of settling for direct cremation because they didn't have another option. And we want to help reduce any of those accounts receivables. I've heard tons and tons of stories from a lot of our partners who you maybe had honored something that they were hoping would check out in a few weeks, or family would give them kind of an IOU, or, you know, can you give us 2 months? And what ends up happening is they get those accounts receivables on their books. And that's really, really hard for a business to take on. So why the finance talk matters. So I always kind of say, I think a lot of us, because it's such a new option, it's only been available the last few years, regularly to have an at-need option, at-need financing. And it's very similar to what Preneed does, right? So Preneed, a family can come in, they pick everything they really want, and then they're given a monthly payment option to chip away at that balance. So that's what we do, but we're on the at-need side. So a lot of funeral directors maybe aren't comfortable with presenting that because it could be scary to have to go over monthly payments and terms. But let's go over a couple of things that we see are just kind of trending right in our space. So especially nowadays, and Jessica, we were talking about this before we started today. Who
Yeah.
would have thought that during this year any of us would be dealing with the pandemic, and all the uncertainty that's come with it. It's been so scary just to kind of see so many changes from every state, no matter where you are. But before this pandemic, these stats are before any of this even happened this year. We were given some information where 40% of Americans don't have $400 in the bank for an emergency. So imagine that 4 out of 10 don't have 400 extra dollars to be able to help pay for that. And today, if you want a nice traditional service, the median price for a funeral is going to be about $9,000. And of course, that's going to vary on the state. Right here in California, believe it or not, it could run almost $20,000 to be buried in our state. And that's probably going to blow some minds, but that's what it's looking like here. So imagine that your family loses somebody, they're not as prepared as they should be. You go into a funeral home, and that's the total due before services take place. 58% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings, and 32% have zero. And I always say, I think when I started in the profession, I was spoiled in the sense that I was helping a lot of the older generation, the ones that had savings in the bank. They could write you a check in full to pay for those services, or they had pre-planned. And as time went on, I seen that change where people just weren't as prepared, or you've seen them rely more on help from family members, or GoFundMe accounts or other options, or we would have to discount all the way down to help them even meet the balance due. So you see these kinds of stats, and it's mind-blowing. And just as of June 2020, the US unemployment rate is 11.1%, which is a big number. I mean, that's huge. The US unemployment rate, and that's because of what we're all dealing with right now as a nation, right? And it's so much uncertainty that families have. So having to deal with maybe being laid off or furloughed, or maybe just your company not having to close its doors, and now you don't have the cash flow coming in. And then imagine losing a loved one. You go into a funeral home, and now it's time to talk about the finances. That could be so overwhelming for a family. And what's interesting is this stat here: the 70% of funeral professionals said families today are less prepared for funeral costs than they were 10 years ago. And we actually had got this stat from a survey we had sent out with LendingUSA and all of our partners. And this is before the pandemic even was affecting all of us. So I can't imagine that rate going down. I think if anything, it's probably even higher now. But I had a couple of funeral homes as well, just kind of share some stories. And when we were first going through the pandemic, and I think in Florida, I had one partner say, we've been hit really hard with businesses closing, and families are starting to ask me, what options do I have? I can't really max out my credit cards right now. I don't know what's going to come in the next couple of months. I'm going to have to rely on those. I need a monthly payment option. So it's something that families are looking for now. And maybe the business wasn't looking for it at the time. Your funeral home just wasn't interested at the time. They didn't need this. People can pay. But now families are looking for this option. So how do you approach the finance talk? That's the biggest part. How do you even put this on the table as an option? When you already have a very established process, you're amazing at your job. You know how to cover from collecting the vitals to adding on the cash advances. you have a full process now. So how do you even bring this up during the process? So we always recommend start early. As easy as, when you're setting the appointment, maybe just mention to the family if they're interested in any monthly payment options, they can apply on your website. We have a website banner option where it gives them the privacy of doing it on their own. I think one of the biggest rules is to, don't assume that the family is going to be able to pay you in full, right? We don't know people's situation. And a lot of the time what happens is, they have to come in, gather the information, and then discuss as a family how we're going to take care of this, right? So just maybe they're looking for a certain price range up front. A lot of the time when they're calling for pricing, they're just trying to find the minimum option. So it's important to try to establish what budget they have up front. Sometimes they don't even know what to expect as far as a budget when it comes to arranging funeral expenses. And of course, just be transparent about pricing and fees, which I can honestly say I don't think I've ever come across a funeral professional that we've ever worked with that wasn't. So, everyone likes to do that because you never want a family upset with you about a surprise charge or surprise fee that wasn't disclosed, right? And just always just understand what's important, right? They may be asking you for, what's the cost for a direct cremation, but is that really what they want? Or is that what they think they can afford? So if they say, what we would really want is to have a nice memorial or to have, keepsakes for everybody, or as long as you know what they're looking for, maybe this is an opportunity to, present this as an option to give them some flexibility. And just let them know that this is an option available. It's when you discuss what forms of payment you accept, this could be something that you put on the table with that as well. So throughout the planning, show your value. So, with funeral service, I don't know if you could put a price on the value of the profession and how hard you work as a funeral director, as an embalmer, as a funeral arranger. That's the part of the services that families are paid for, right? Is for your professional help. And then just show what options your funeral home has. I remember the funeral home that I work for, we were privately owned, and we had a lot of families that would call us for direct cremation.
Mhm.
So I kind of caught on to that, and I thought, I wonder if they even realize the options they have. And so I would make it my point to have them come into the funeral home. That way I could give them a tour and show them the chapels available, show them the urns and the keepsakes, so that they knew all of the value that they can add to a service. So it's important to do that. Offer a tour if you can. Maybe not the behind the scenes tour, but maybe your beautiful arrangement offices, your beautiful chapels. If you have a reception room available, that's a way for them to add on a service that maybe they weren't even thinking of. And 86% of buyers are willing to pay more for a great customer experience. One thing that I had found a lot of families would lean toward is, convenience as well, right? So if they were to hold, a beautiful memorial there at your facility, and then if you had a room available for a reception, it would be so convenient for them to just have everything there, and that would be able to give more revenue to the business as well. And then just offer all the options. I think a lot of the time, families, when you give them that final total of what everything was going to cost, they're wondering, okay, how are we going to take care of this? How are we going to divide this amongst the family? And you never know what type of payment option is going to be their preference. And what we've noticed is a lot of families may come in for the arrangement conference, and if they're given the Lending USA information, maybe you give them a copy of the brochure, or you mention that it's an option available, they can apply online in private. We get a lot of families that do that. They leave the funeral home and then they do go online and they apply in private, and then they call us directly, and then we're able to kind of loop back with our partner and let them know, the family did apply, they got approved, and this is what they have to work with. So it's something that families, as long as they know it's an option available, you've done your part in giving them those opportunities to apply if they're interested. So what is funeral financing? I always say I have these golden questions, and I'll never forget. It was last year at the end of day convention, and I asked, just a couple of these questions, and I asked for a visual by a show of hands. And I feel like almost everybody in the room raised their hand. And when this will be needed is if you ever have a family who had unexpected loss. Who's helped somebody who had unexpected loss? That's going to be almost every funeral director, right? Who had a family who has the funds, but everything was tied up in probate or can't be accessible till you get those death certificates in. Or you have those families who were relying on that one life insurance policy, but for whatever reason, it just didn't check out and they're not able to use it now. So there's so many scenarios where it could be just devastating for a family who's expecting a certain route and it's not going to work out. So what can they do now? What do they do? Either they're going to ask you to discount all the way downwards, affecting your business costs, or they're going to have to go to family and friends, GoFundMe options. So it's something that families are looking for. Nowadays, a lot of families will go price shopping or are searching online for a payment option. So if you have this available, I promise you a lot of families are going to take advantage of at least trying to see if they qualify. And what's great about this is, you know, what you currently deal with is a lot of pre-need, right? A lot of families, if they were able to, and they took care of it in advance, you deal with pre-need, but maybe it didn't cover the full cost of the services today. Or maybe it lapsed. Maybe they had one payment, two payments made, and the family comes in with their little folder, but that policy is not good. And oh, that's another devastating option, that happens sometimes. Insurance, we covered that. Credit cards. A lot of the time you get a family who maybe has to split the cost and you get multiple credit cards paying. And again, having a family having to max out a credit card could be very, very hard for them, especially with their credit. It would also affect them with their debt to income. It also takes away from them having that little cushion to rely on for emergencies, things like that. So this is an option that you can offer in place of them maxing out a credit card. And I think one thing that I've heard a couple times throughout the last couple of years is some funeral directors would think, this is really only for people who don't have money. And I'll be honest with you, I think when I started LendingUSA, that was why I thought of those families right off the bat. I thought there were so many times I sat across a family who just didn't have the money and they had no option, and I would feel so bad for them. But as time went on, I learned you can't assume. And this could be an option available for people who are financially okay, but they just need some flexibility. They need a couple months to kind of get through everything and settle the estate and then pay themselves back with everything once it's settled. So we can't assume. You'd be very surprised who would look for this opportunity to do a monthly payment. And they can just supplement it with other funds as well. Our application process is all online. I know that during this pandemic, a lot of funeral homes and cemeteries have had to go embrace the option of doing everything online with the family, right? And that could be tricky. Technology could be scary, but I think a lot of you, if you've gotten more comfortable with it, you've seen, hey, you know what? It's not that bad. And our full process is all online. So family can go to lendingusa.com to apply. They can go on your website to apply, their website banner. Especially right now, if you're not able to have them come into the funeral home and make arrangements, this is all online. If they apply, only takes a few minutes to apply and receive a pre-approval. We have a family, we can email them the loan documents. They could sign from their cell phone, the comfort of their home. And then we do fast funding directly to the business in just a few days. So that's the difference between our platform and a few others. We pay the business directly. We don't release the money to the family. It's always going to go to your business. And we give them affordable fixed monthly payment options. So either a 36 or 60-month term would be available for the family. So having an option like funeral financing on the at-need side is always going to help a family's option to increase their buying power, right? So we talked about, families who settle for direct cremation because they think that's all they can afford. And I can't tell you how many times we've had scenarios where our partners have shared with us, this family was only going to do a cremation, but now because they got qualified, we're going to add on a memorial for them, or they were going to end up burying mom or dad now because they were able to get qualified. So it gives them the peace of mind of knowing, okay, you know what, I can afford this because it's a monthly payment option available. We don't require them to put any money down. They apply, they get a pre-approval. All they have to do is select their monthly term that they prefer, finalize their loan documents, and then their first payment won't be due for about 30 days. And then we offer them a promotional period. So it's no interest on the principal if they pay off within 6 months. So that's the great part about this is, again, that imagine having that 6-month window to just kind of get through the services, get through some finances, and then figure it out after. So why would this be better for your business? What does this do for you, right? So we talked about how it helps families, but how does it help you? So depending on the state you're in, I think a big part of a big change that we've all seen over the last couple of years is cremation versus burial, right? And how do you keep the margins, profitable for your business when you're offering a cremation versus a burial? Because they're so different in cost, right? So I remember I want to say about 6 years ago is where I kind of started seeing the trend of cremation was just huge. And our funeral home was only charging, I think it was like $1,200 for direct cremation. And then our traditional burial service was closer to 8,000. So that was a huge gap in between. So we had to learn how to change with those requests and add on, the merchandise that would bring us profits, right? So like a nice urn or keepsakes, or maybe the dummies, that are available. Families love anything personal that they can keep as a token. So adding on things like that, increasing, the services is going to increase your revenue. So having a family have a pre-approval with us is going to give them that encouragement and also that comfort of knowing, okay, you know what, we can add on these things that we want. We don't have to go search online for a cheap urn, because it's less expensive. They're going to be able to, again, the convenience of staying with you, purchasing everything they really want, and just having that peace of mind that it's all taken care of. You're going to go ahead and order everything for them, and you're taking care of them. And what's great about our option is when a customer applies for a loan with us, again, the money is paid directly to you and it's only for your funeral home. So let's say you have a family who is price shopping. This is an advantage for you to say, we do have a monthly payment option available if you qualify through LendingUSA. If a family gets pre-approved, they could use that with you only. They can't take it and use it. You have to be an enrolled partner with LendingUSA, and it has to be an approval that they filled out for your funeral home. So we get a lot of feedback that when families maybe come in for pricing for someone who's on hospice care, or maybe the end's getting a little closer, so the family's kind of starting to gather all the info they need. They use this as leverage, as a tool, for their business, and letting the families know this is an option available, and it helps them secure that family as well. We have a case recently, actually, a family who was price shopping. They got a pre-approval with one of our partners, and that's where they ended up staying, because they said, this is going to work for our family. This fits the needs that we have. And it gained one of our partners a case that they probably wouldn't have had if they didn't have this option. And we assume the risk of the loans. So whenever a family is pre-approved, we pay you the business, and then after that, you guys are out of the equation. We're not asking you to go. Can you help us collect the monthly payment due? No. As soon as the loan is funded, you receive the funds. we would deal with the family directly, and there's no recourse to your business. So if the family doesn't make the first payment, maybe they never pay one payment, you're not hit with a chargeback or responsible to return the funds to Lending USA, which is a big deal. If any of you guys write pre-need, I know that I used to write pre-need for homesteaders, and that would happen sometimes. You know, if a family canceled the policy or somebody passed away in a certain time frame, you would get hit with the chargeback. And there'd be times where it was like, oh, that hurt because it's a couple $100s, couple $1,000s, and that chargebacks are no fun. So we don't have that. You know, we assume the risk and debt. So why are we preferred by funeral homes? I think we're just a custom tailored solution, right? So we try to be as flexible as we can with how a family can apply, right? So we mentioned we have custom web banners that you can add on your site that lets the family go to your website in private. Families can go to our website and apply in private. They can apply right there in your funeral home if you have them sitting with you 24/7. You have access to a custom portal that we make for you. And there's no business hours to it. It could be a holiday, which we know with funeral service, there's no days off, right? And with our portal, you have full access. You don't have to worry about it not working today because it's weekend. No, it's a custom tailored option for you. We know collections can be difficult after a service is done. And let's say a family were to owe you a large sum of money. You know, a lot of the time, I don't even know if you guys would have time to sit and figure out, okay, how are we going to try to get this money from the family? Or let me try to call them again, or let me send another letter. You know, that stuff is really hard, and it shouldn't be something that you spend any time on because you just have a full plate already, right? And then dealing with local banks or credit unions can take too long. You know, we talked about the access you have with the portal with us. You know, if it's a local bank or credit union, you know, they're going to honor the holidays that are closed. You know, weekends, sometimes their hours are shorter or they're not there. So you need something that's going to be readily available, and that's what we offer. And we want to get you paid. Our goal is to get you paid as fast as we can, direct deposit straight into the bank account. So how do funeral homes use Lending USA? I want to say some of our most successful partners um, are practicing adding the website banner, because again, like we mentioned, you guys are always so busy, you have a full plate. If you can let the family apply on their own in private, it also just kind of helps, you know, let them do it on their own. So that way it cuts some time for you. We have a couple software integration options that we've partnered with, which are great as well. It's built into your full arrangement process. That's really easy. And just informing them of that promotional period. I think that's a big selling point for a lot of families that they're looking for, that 6-month option to just kind of get through everything. We have a great feature called text to apply, where you can even just text the families a link directly to their cell phone, and they can apply right there on their phone. Multiple family members can apply, which is great. Doesn't have to be just the legal next of kin or just the person who's going to be taking care of everything financially. It could be multiple family members applying. And then we have a tool, it's called Merchant Search, where a family can go to lendingusa.com, and then what they do is they just type in your name as their funeral home they're going to be using, and it links the application directly to you. So one of our greatest partners, Davis Funeral Home, they're in Las Vegas, and when they got started with us, within the first 90 days, they generated over $70,000 worth of loans. And that just shows you the need, right? Families went for it. They said, yes, we want this option. And I think they did over $150,000 within 6 months. So of course your caseloads are different, right? But it just shows you, if it's presented up front and equally to every family, families are going to take advantage of the opportunity of having this. And it's again, how it works. Family fills out a quick application online. They could do it from a desktop, a tablet, or their cell phone, which I think all of us have a cell phone in hand no matter where we go. So that's something very easy to use. They get a pre-approval decision just in a few seconds. Once they hit check my rate, it spins and they get a quick answer. We do a soft credit pull. So what that means is it doesn't harm the applicant's credit score when they apply with us, which is a big deal. And I don't know if a lot of people are aware of that, but if you're applying for different credit cards or different financing options, sometimes they hit you with what they call a hard pull, and that sticks on your credit for years. But our option is just a soft pull, doesn't harm the applicant's credit. And families can sign loan documents either at the funeral home or from their home or from work, wherever they're located. As long as they have access to an email, we can get them a quick link to apply to finish those loan documents. And we send the funds directly to you in just a few days.
Yep. Elaine, one question I had, how frequently are families approved for these loans? I know, especially with, some of those families that may be experiencing financial difficulties, maybe their credit rating isn't the best. How frequently are families approved, and are there issues with families who may not have great credit ratings?
We do get often where there's a family of, let's say an example, we have 5 family members and all 5 will apply, but we can't say that all 5 will be approved, right? Because it definitely depends on the credit standing of the applicant. So, it's really hard to say. It depends how often a funeral home presents us. That's what we say, it's important to offer it up front and equal to everyone, because you don't know who's going to have good credit, and sometimes some families aren't even aware of their current credit standing, right? So it's important to let them know this is an option that you can apply for, and it's a free credit check. It's not going to hurt you. So if they are concerned of that, maybe they don't want to even look at it, and there's nothing touching their credit, this is just a soft pull. It's not going to hurt them. So I don't know if I could give you an exact percentage on that, but it's definitely something to be presented up front to everybody. It's a good idea to do that. So presenting to families, we talked about the web banners. We have now, because of everything that's been going on with the pandemic, we're doing digital brochures, which is something that we send you directly that you can print or just email over to the family so that they could download. So those are readily available for you. Just making sure that this is something you present up front to everyone, so everyone knows it's a low monthly payment option available. Give the families the digital brochure, or give them a paper copy, and inside the family folder you give them when you give them pricing. Maybe you can do you can apply pre-made LendingUSA banners to your site, which are available in your portal. So they have a variety of styles that you can select that you prefer. And we mentioned earlier, families can share the cost with multiple family members. So, and we see that often when it's a family with siblings who are taking care of maybe the services for mom or dad. They're sharing the responsibility, they're sharing the cost, and you get multiple applicants who apply for one balance. And again, the promotion, that's the biggest part, is pitching the option of, they have a 6-month window to take care of this loan for that no interest on principal paid off within that window. So key takeaways: use this as a tool to expand your services, offer a low monthly payment option upfront to everyone, and try to increase your bottom line. Right? That's important as a business, because, as a business owner, you have a staff and a community that's relying on you, right? And it could be a lot of pressure when you see so many changes and so many options that are just the new norm now. And just making sure you're up to date with everything that you can present is very important to keep your business thriving and keep that revenue coming in, and just an option to expand the services you're offering. And again, we're low risk. Signing up with us, there's no cost. We have a free option for you. And if you're interested, we'd love to hear more from you. All right, so I don't know if we have any questions that came through.
Elaine is ready for your questions. So please use either the chat or Q&A options on your screen to send in your questions. Elaine, I thought it was an interesting point that you brought up about making sure you're presenting this option to every family because, I mean, admittedly, I often think of funeral financing for, families that, as you said, a lot of families don't have savings and maybe stuck paying for a funeral, but, maybe there are families that are, doing a little bit better financially, but, they just want that flexibility. So that advice of presenting options like this to every family is just so important. It wasn't something I thought of before.
It's something that I mentioned earlier that I wasn't even thinking of until I joined LendingUSA, because what inspired me to even join this was, again, those families who needed an option because they didn't have the funds. But as soon as I got here, I started seeing, oh, wow, people with good credit, they do apply for an option like this as well. And it's because they're so relied on from the family as well to
Yeah.
take care of this. And that could be kind of tough to take on that responsibility all by yourself. So having a monthly payment is definitely some flexibility in that avenue.
We had a question come in. Is the financing 100% of the contract price or cost of the funeral, or a percentage
Oh, that's a
of the
great
funeral
question.
cost?
So this is what I always kind of share, because I know usually with service contracts, they're kind of broken into three, right? So there's your service fees, there's the merchandise, and then there's the cash advances. So what I always highly recommend is have your establishment finance the service fees and merchandise, and then have the family pay cash advances out of pocket. Because if there's a case where maybe a balance is owed after the fact, things like that, it's cash advances you're not making any profit on. It's more of like a customer service section that you're paying out on behalf of the family. So if you want to take on that cost, you can, but what I recommend is financing service fees and merchandise.
Great question. Elaine, as I mentioned at the beginning, and as you mentioned in your presentation, LendingUSA is part of NFPA's family of endorsed providers. Can you talk a little bit, although any funeral home can use your services, about some of the specific benefits that you offer to partners who are also NFDA members?
Oh, definitely. So we actually give special pricing to NFDA members, which is a big deal. I think it's the best when we get a brand new NFDA partner. They're so proud to share that. We're with NFDA. We're like, all right, awesome. Because behind the scenes we have a special little tab that we mark for them. Saying this is NFDA member. So, but yeah, you do get special pricing. On our platform as being an NFDA member. Anytime we have anything going on, just like this amazing webinar, anything that we can ever help with, we love that. It's very important for us to be involved with our partners, and we always attend the shows if we can. Especially this year, it's going to be a little different, right, with the convention coming up. But we'll see how the online option works for everybody. Yeah, but special pricing is available for NFD members. That's the part we really get excited about.
Great. We had another question come in. Hello, thank you for the presentation. You brought up some great points. What is the document signing fee? I presume that means sort of what kind of fees are associated with signing on with LendingUSA. How does your fee structure work for funeral homes?
Oh, sure. So there's no fees that we charge to onboard you, right? So when you apply to be a partner with us, we have you fill out an application. We collect a few pieces of documentation to get you up and running, but we don't charge you anything monthly. We don't charge you a setup fee. We don't charge you anything annually. If there's ever a fee involved, it's if we have somebody who's considered a higher risk borrower, then we would have what we call a merchant discount. And it's very similar to when you're accepting credit card payments, right? Anytime you're swiping a card, you're being charged a merchant fee from that credit card machine. So with us, we only charge you a merchant fee when it's someone high risk. Other than that, you say it's a $1,000 funeral, we're paying you $1,000. You have no fees at all. There's no fees. There's never recourse. We don't charge back. But as far as to the business, there's no other fees that I could think of.
Yeah. And so and they clarified and said
Oh,
loan document fee for the family. So it's the family is charged an interest on their loan, correct? And
okay. I think I know what they're asking. So
okay,
so So we have what we call an APR, right, which is going to be their interest rate and our origination fee. So whenever a family applies with LendingUSA and the loan is funded, then they have that 6-month window, right? So if they pay this off within 6 months, the interest on the principal will be erased. But they have a processing fee that they pay, and that's 8%. So it's pretty much $80 per $1,000 that they're going to pay. So, and I kind of always kind of compare it to Preneed. You know, when somebody writes up a Preneed, they're given a monthly payment, a term to complete these payments within, but they also have a little window of time where they can pay this off in full, and all they pay is a processing fee. So very similar concept. It's just it's called an origination fee. That's what that is.
okay, great. Um, well, I think I'm not seeing any other questions come in. Elaine, are there any other final words you'd like to share with our audience?
No, just thank you guys for tuning in today. I think during a time like this, especially just there's so much uncertainty for our community, and losing somebody is just so devastating. You guys know you're in the seat every day. You serve your communities, and just I would just recommend having an extra option on hand, because you're going to see the changes where families are starting to ask you more and more often for a monthly payment option, or what other options that they have available. And what better tool than to have a partnership like ours. We really appreciate the NFDA and all that you guys do for us, and the endorsement, and we look forward to working close in hand with all of our partners.
Great. Thank you, Elaine. Yeah, Lending USA is part of our family of endorsed providers. You can learn more about Lending USA and all of our endorsed companies at nfda.org/endorsed providers. Just a couple of other things I want to mention. Next week and the week after that, July 21st and 28th, we have the second and third sessions in our customer experience series. Special thing we're doing this summer with consumer anthropologist, authors, and consultants Rich Kaiser and Georgianne Bender, who you may know from NFDA webinars or our convention. On July 21st, next week, they're going to be presenting a session on memorable experiences in the funeral home. And on July 28th, they're going to be speaking on distinguishing your funeral home from the competition. These sessions are just $75 each, a great bargain. There's CE for those sessions, so please visit nfda.org/events for more information and to register. We also have two upcoming virtual sessions for our cremation certification program with Mike Nicodemus. If you have never had a chance to travel to one of Mike's sessions, this virtual option is a great thing for you. We have sessions coming up on July 29th and 30th. And August 3rd and 4th. If you're interested in the July session, you need to register by next week, Tuesday, July 21st. So visit nfda.org/events for more information on those sessions. I also want to make sure everyone knows we have our first ever virtual leadership conference coming up August 3rd through the 5th. This is an outstanding event. If you are currently serving in a leadership position with your state or national association, or maybe one day you hope to serve as a leader on your state association's board, please join us. We're offering two convenient ways to register. You can register for the full conference, or we are offering one-day options if you maybe just want to hear a couple of speakers on one particular day. When you register, you'll be getting a free Bluetooth speaker from Federated Insurance, another member of our endorsed provider family. If you visit the website, nfda.org/leadership, you can learn all about this fantastic conference. And Elaine mentioned we have our virtual convention coming up. As you have likely heard, we have made the decision because of the pandemic and to protect your health and safety to move our International Convention and Expo to a virtual event taking place in October. We're definitely disappointed we're not going to be able to see you all in person in New Orleans, but I think this virtual convention is going to be a really outstanding event. We have some fun things that we're planning to help you connect and network as best we can in this new reality that we're facing. Registration for the virtual convention actually opens 1 month from today on August 17th. So please be on the lookout in the weeks to come for more information about the virtual convention, and we hope everyone will join us for this, what is surely going to be a fantastic event. I want to thank Elaine again for sharing her expertise with our audience today. And thank all of you, thanks to all of you for attending and joining us today. Have a great Friday.